What's going on, guys? Anime Yokage back at it again, and today we're reviewing the One Piece spoilers for chapter 1104, Thank You, Daddy. Thank you, Dad. The other way sounded weird for me to say. Anyways, the chapter starts out where we last ended, and Saturn is absolutely shocked to see Kuma jump on the scene. As we all were, and were hoping that he would. It's actually revealed to us that Saturn already pressed Kuma's self-destruct button a few days after the Revolutionary Army rescued him from Mary Joie. So in Saturn's mind right now, it's a big, wait? No! Saturn's confused, Kuma's mad, moving forward. Vega Punk thinks to himself, Quasar! There's no scientific explanation to why Kuma is still able to move and or knows why Bonnie is on Egghead, or that she is at all. I think it'll be revealed that Bonnie's sapphire jewel that she got from Kuma as a present for her 10th birthday is going to be the reason that he knows that she's there. Just like us, Sanji, Frankie, and Atlas are completely shocked to see Kuma on the scene. And as we left Kuma completely reared back, ready to hit Saturn, he starts to have a flashback about his life. It's nothing that we didn't see in the flashback already. It's just, I guess we were going through his point of view, remembering everything, and he's just recollecting all that right now. It's a culmination of all the bad things he's gone through in his life to come up to this moment to save Bonnie and finally stick it back to the Gorosei. I can't wait to see this double spread because apparently Kuma crushes Saturn's face. Saturn is still conscious, but he is very angry. No shit. But Kuma's punch actually sends Saturn flying through a couple different buildings, and those buildings get flattened and fall on top of Saturn. When it turns into a bug, you can get squashed like a bug. And we all know Saturn can regenerate, but still it feels good to see him get so hurt. Just like ourselves, all the Marines are completely shocked that a slave actually struck a Gorosei. And it's so cool to see that a slave struck the Gorosei. It's just all coming full circle, and it shows us how the redemption stories happen, and it shows us that Oda's been cooking this up for so long, and we're so appreciative.
Ooh-wee, look what that money make a bitch do.
So after Saturn gets an express ticket across the island, Vega Punk, Sanji, Frankie, and Atlas are able to move their bodies again. We're not sure of why they couldn't in the first place. I would guess that it's an extreme level of Conqueror's hockey. I would guess the majority of the public or the fan base would guess that as well, but it also could be something to do with his mythical zone fruit, which we're all speculating is still the Unioshi. Good guy Sanji, first thing, wants to check if Bonnie's okay, not about anybody else in the vicinity. He's always focused on the goal. But that's weird now that we know Bonnie's true age.
Suspicious predator-like.
Vega Punk, taking control of the situation, tells everybody to get Bonnie back to the Lavo phase so they can escape. At this point, with everything that's against them, it's kind of hard to believe that they're not going to be able to escape without some super intervention. And I know Kuma was a major part of that intervention, but I really feel like they're going to need a lot more and or a face turn from somebody like Kizaru, which is looking more and more like it could happen by the chapter. Vega Punk reveals that the self-destruct function of Kuma isn't actually to make him blow up because he knew that the world government could weaponize that. It's more just to stop his movements completely. Always gotta be thinking ahead. So Vega Punk revealing that the self-destruct function isn't supposed to blow him up, but rather just stop Kuma. He's absolutely flabbergasted of how Kuma is doing any of this. Kuma shouldn't be able to move or take any orders after the Gorosei push that self-destruct function. And Dr. Vega Punk actually has an inner monologue to where he says maybe the Buccaneers' power isn't their superhuman strength, but in the past they've had something else. I'm sure that we'll get more elaboration on this, maybe when the full chapter comes out, or maybe we have to wait a few chapters to find out. Either way, it'd be a really cool development to see the Buccaneers have some other kind of power other than really big, really strong. Bonnie then thanks Kuma for everything that she saw in Kuma's memories, everything he did for her, everything he did for Bonnie's mother, and she hugs him one last time before Kuma stops moving completely. Makes sense, given the self-destruct function, just makes him stop moving. Maybe the love that he had for Bonnie and the will to protect her is what was making him able to... I'm going to go back to Dragon talking about the instinct fragment. Just like I thought before, that it might be the sapphire that was given to her for her 10th birthday. That's probably the instinct fragment that once it was in her possession or once it touched her, then it was activated. Because it only makes sense that Kuma would assume if Bonnie ever got back to Vega Punk, it was probably the end. Or when she just needed him most. Moving on in the chapter, we see that the Marines can't find Luffy anywhere. He's completely disappeared. We know in the last chapter that he actually got fed by, we think, Kizaru, but it could also be anybody else, maybe the Swamp Man. It's hard to tell, but I think the general public is leaning towards Kizaru, probably did it. We'll see later on, but they can't find him anywhere. Swamp Man. Why did it get away from me that his name is Caribou? I'm sorry. Caribou. I'm getting sidetracked. Let's move on. Apart from the development that we see with Frankie and Sanji, we don't see anything from any other Straw Hats, so we don't get an update on anybody else doing anything, especially the one we were looking forward to with Zoro versus Rob Lucci. I know, we're all waiting to see it. Come on. Like, Zoro's going to lose to Rob Lucci, but we want to see it regardless. We want to see it. So I hope that pops up in maybe the next chapter, or maybe we get a glimpse of it at the end of this chapter, given these are only the spoilers. Saturn emerges from the rubble, and he's actually missing his right arm and his left horn, and that's due to the buildings falling on him, and actually it crushed his body, and his body is very, very heavily injured. Yes. However, as we guessed it, Saturn actually regenerates from this. Just like whenever Bonnie stabbed him and it just regenerated immediately and the blood disappeared. There's a whole bunch of black flames that come up around his injured body, especially his right arm and his left horn, and it regenerates them 100% as if nothing happened. This is hard to tell because I want to say that this is most likely because of his mythical zone, but it would be really weird for him to be the only Gorosei that can regenerate his body like this. Or maybe that's why they sent him out, because he can regenerate his body like this. I can't see it being a technique of the body that they just learn and they're able to do. And I don't know if it's anything like hockey, because Shanks has incredible Conqueror's hockey, yet he's not able to regenerate his arm, or maybe he just doesn't. Maybe Shanks doesn't do it because he wants to put them in a false sense of security. He can't bring his arm back or anything, because that would be a huge advantage to whip out as a trump card at the end of the fight when everyone's expecting that you only have one arm. That would actually be awesome. But I don't know. I don't know if that's it. Regardless, black flames regenerate Saturn's body completely to 100% again. I know we don't want all to hear it, but he does. First things first, Saturn has business with Vega Punk. How did Kuma do that? Of course, Saturn is completely pissed at Vega Punk because he thought that Kuma would blow up and be gone. But Vega Punk responds to Saturn and says, let's just say it's because of love, which is like one step down from the power of friendship. And we all know what the power of friendship can do in an anime. Saturn immediately tries to attack Kuma, but lo and behold, Sanji actually deflects the attack. We're not sure how he does this, but I guess because they got control of their bodies again, that Saturn hasn't flipped on that immobilization or paralyzation thing he had going on. But Sanji's able to move. There's also the possibility that he's adapted to it already because of his incredible body.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I mean, because of his genetically altered body. Maybe it just doesn't affect him anymore, or not as severely as it did. After Sanji stops the attack, he yells at Saturn, "You won't hurt Bonnie again." And then Vega Punk actually orders Atlas to take Kuma back up to the Labo phase. We got to remember the history that Kuma has with all these characters, the Straw Hats included. From him encountering them on Thriller Bark, to him sending them out on their time skip, to protecting the Sunny for 2 whole years against any damage and making sure that was his last prerogative. If anybody is in debt to Kuma, it's the Straw Hats. And we remember that Kuma actually did all these things because he saw so much promise in Luffy. I love how Oda ties all this stuff together. Frankie actually fires a radical beam at Saturn, proclaiming we owe a big favor to Kuma. And the radical beam connects, but just like whenever he got hurt before, he regenerates completely and it has no effect. Kizaru then appears and kicks Frankie away. Now, he just kicks Frankie away. I would assume that someone that has such a high bounty and is so powerful, Kizaru could take out rather than just kick away. I think he's trying to kick and get them away and get them back together so that they can escape, and it can look like he was trying to stop them the whole time. As Kizaru kicks Frankie away, Vega Punk has some things to say to Kizaru. Vega Punk yells at Kizaru, "Your heart can't withstand doing this for much longer, can it? You're a very sad man, Kizaru." And this is so awesome because you know how like whenever your parents or somebody says, "I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed in you," and it hurts so much more. This kind of feels like that moment, and it really digs into Kizaru. Because Kizaru replies to Vega Punk, and as he's replying with a super sad expression on his face, it looks like he's about to tear up. All he says was, "I should have brought darker sunglasses." You know, super cool reply. But it's showing us that Kizaru is regretting everything that he's doing. And his justice and his loyalty to the world government does not trump his inner emotions, which I feel like we're going to see come into full bloom towards the end of Egghead, which we're coming up on very quickly, I think. In the very last page of this chapter, we can see Saturn actually calling a buster call to Egghead Island. All the Marine ships are starting to turn around, preparing to fire. So yes, Egghead will be over sooner than we think, but that doesn't mean this arc is over yet. It would actually be an incredibly short arc if this was the end of it. And we know just by watching Dressrosa before how long that Oda can actually prolong an imminent doom. But what did you guys think of these spoilers? Go ahead and let me know down below. Go ahead and comment what you liked, what you didn't like. Just make a conversation. We're getting no break next week, so it's right back to it immediately. I can't wait to talk to you guys next week. I'm Anime Yokage, and I'll see you next time.